After the opening of yesterday morning, it's time to have back on this stage the big thing. Peter Verhoeven, Managing Director of Booking Europe and Africa.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Peter, I work for Booking.com. Happy to have you here today. I'm Dutch, so my Italian is really rudimentary or non-existent at all. Why we plan to be the most advanced travel company? It's a very audacious and bold statement. But if you look at what our mission is, that we internally always share with our team, it's this. It's to help leisure and business travelers, whatever their budget, easily discover, book and enjoy the world's best place to stay. Now you may have seen this before. But that's really what all of our teams work for. So what's going to get us there? Why do we plan to get there? How do we get there? What are the thoughts and the ideas that will really revolutionize the industry? And who's going to do that? To be honest, all we have is people. All we have is people. 13,000 people now, from different worlds, different varieties, different backgrounds, 140 nationalities, 3,500 people working in Amsterdam, the other 10,000 all over the place. We have people in small offices, 10, 11 offices here in Italy. We have another 180 offices in the world. And how do they fit together? How do they work together? Because we don't have hotels, we don't have accommodations. All we have is the shared knowledge of these people. And how do we foster and basically stimulate their creativity, their sharing? How do you build a culture around innovation? How do you build a culture where hierarchy is not so important, where small and agile teams can decide to implement stuff? That's really the core. So if there's anything I want to share with you today, it's not a very bold statement on how you should do your business or how we're going to do business. It's these people that are going to decide it for us. They're going to help us get to our mission, making our product every day better. And you see on this map a lot of people. So people don't sometimes understand what Booking.com is made of. 13,000 people, data scientists, copywriters, editors, language specialists, people working in offices that have a lot of travel background, people working in customer care. We have over 6,000 people working in customer care, picking up the phone when customers have an issue during or before or after their stay. It's a big team, and they will make it happen. So where are we today? Where did these people get us after 20 years in the business? Because it's no longer a small startup, right? We're now 20 years down the line since 1996. 96,000 unique destinations, 1.2 million room nights booked every 24 hours, with over 1 million accommodations hosting our customers. Over 108 million reviews generated by customers, giving content, giving tips and tricks to other travelers and making their next stay also more secure on where they make their choice. So what will the future hold for us? What do we think, humbly, if we look at us, what we could do in the future even more, what we should focus on? We focus on growth. And growth is not only growth in a sense of geography, because we are, of course, looking at geographies where there's a lot of potential. If you look at, for example, the States, if you look at Asia, but also in Africa, also the Middle East, a lot of pockets that are still hugely with untapped potential. So geography growth is one. Another type of growth is looking at broader segments. How can we be more active in business bookers? How can we bring more business customers also through our tooling in the place they want to stay? Another vector of growth is the type of accommodations. How can we enlarge on the portfolio of accommodation? And just to give you a number, when I joined in 2014, we were 8,000 people, now we're 13,000 people. When I joined, we had, I think, we had 500,000 properties. Now we're over 1 million properties. So it's not impossible to keep on growing by broadening your offer and basically working on one thing, getting the customer the reply he's looking for and giving him excellent service. That's the core focus. Mobile. Today, 2 out of 5 bookings, 40%, are transacted over mobile. No longer just looking, they're transacted over mobile. So how do you embrace mobile? How is mobile a totally integrated part of our strategy? And if you're an hotelier or if you're of your own distribution, probably also for you important. How do you embrace mobile and how do you ensure that what you do on mobile is totally relevant to the customer? Because it's a different game. Today, we need to optimize for 225 screen resolutions between mobile and desktop. We need to optimize for that constantly. We need to really develop your product around it. Partner services. How can we, in a growing travel market, offer more and more services to our partners? How can we help them bridge what's happening in the digital age? Consumers today still choose a lot of ways to reserve hotels or recommendations. In Europe, it's estimated by a Focusrite study that 30% only is online. Can you see the potential there for yourself to do it with partners? If 70% goes through other channels, more traditional channels, there's huge potential to grow there. How can we help partners growing in that way? Messenger. Everybody knows WeChat in China? Anybody? WeChat in China, I think, has over 600 million users. 600 million users. And they buy, they transact, they do everything over that device. So messaging, how do you work with messaging? Also in your product, is messaging relevant in the future? How can you interact with customers not only before they book and during when they book, but also during stay, close to stay, in stay? How can you enrich their experience when they want to do something? If you know their geolocalization, how can they interact with you? In languages that are different, how does artificial intelligence help you with that? And acquisitions, we get very often the questions, what about acquisitions? How do you look at acquisitions? Today, Booking.com invests in small startups that want to grow slowly. We also bought a couple of startups that we thought could help us. For example, when we now look at the product Rate Manager or Rate Intelligence, it sprung from an acquisition we did. So sometimes when we see we can make a jump in technology or we can go forward faster, we embrace that also and we look at opportunities. Now, customers' expectations are changing, and we know it. Everybody goes online. The internet has brought a lot of discussion about, but it's happening, right? And everybody is benefiting from it. Travel is growing, and we're all happy with that. What does it mean in numbers? Just some numbers, maybe, to give you a feeling. This is now 3.2 billion people connected. Tomorrow, 7.6 billion connected. Today, 17 billion connected objects. From these to everything you wear, to wearables, etc. Tomorrow, 52 billion. Today, 40% already of search is done on voice. Tomorrow, 200 billion searches per month by voice. What do you do with voice? What do you do with connected devices? What do you do with all those connected people? So this is really how customers are changing, and their habits are changing, and the numbers are huge. We believe, for us, everything we should do is instant, on demand, an answer to the customer question. No delay, instant bookable. 24 access to service worldwide, wherever you are, is going to be making a difference between those who do well and those who do average. Personalized recommendations, where people have user-generated content, and user-generated content is so important. We use today in Destination Finder, we use it for reviews. People help constructing the story of the city that know best, local people contributing to it, giving feedback to each other, bridging community. For us, it's really important because people can transact on our platform in a way that increases loyalty to us, and basically Booking.com is not only transactional, but also starts having a deeper value of finding information that's relevant. Now, if you look at those data, the question is, of course, wow, that's a lot, right? How do you get smart in that? Because it sounds like a world of connectivity. We track where people are, we can give them recommendations. How do you make that work? Artificial intelligence or machine learning is key in there. How do you really mix the experience of the user with a machine learning that can predict what other customers might like, might want at a certain moment during their stay, is key in the future of tomorrow. Voice of the crowd, we talked about it. User-generated content is key. So how do we work? And this is going to be sometimes, maybe you've seen it already. We are a very data-driven company. And then what does that mean? What does it mean? Well, there's loads of data. And sometimes people ask, you have loads of data. You see all these millions of transactions on your platform. What do you do with this data? We do every day the same thing. We go back to our mission. We try to make our product better with data every day. So what does that mean? You do experiments, right? So we do a lot of experiments, and we'll talk about that. What does it mean for experiments? What does it mean for a culture in our company? It means we fail often. We fail. but we do it fast. So we know when we're in experiments that the majority will fail. They will not produce incremental value to customers, but we don't know ahead. So we embrace failure. And maybe that's something that for other people is interesting also. How do you deal with failure in your organization? How do you deal with people that have a hypothesis that you test and it turns out not to bring added value? How do you treat those people? Well, we embrace them. When there's failure, we say we learned something and we store it. What does it mean practically? Practically, it means we run 1,000 experiments every day. If it's on web, if it's on email, if it's on the app. 1,000 experiments where this side of the audience will see a little different version than this side, and we see what these million here do versus the million people here. And that's how we measure success. It's not anybody deciding top-down what it should be. When we talk about what customers want, it's great, and there's a lot of hypotheses in there. The fantastic thing about the internet is you can test it, you can measure it. You can really show something here and show something there and see what customers do. Do they stay in your store? Do they click through? Do they hover over it? Do they stay? Are they attracted? Or do they run like crazy to another shop? Because they can. That's experimentation, that's culture. What does it mean? We have, since we started, run 100,000 experiments. And that's a daily version, and that's a daily driven thing. How does it work? We have small teams, mainly on the product side, so on the central side. So when we do product development, we have teams from, let's say, 5 to 8 people that have a product owner, and they decide on one part of the puzzle in their track what they want to experiment on. No hierarchy involved. I wouldn't even know. Nobody knows sometimes. But if they are successful, they implement it on a larger scale. And that's how you make small incremental steps. Product innovation is also for the partner, for the accommodation partner, important. What do you do with this data? Can you bridge something to the partner? And we try. So for example, launching booking analytics was an effort for us to help accommodation partners understand better where demand comes from what device, from what nationality, what type of book window, what type of behavior these customers have. So that you also know what you can do to optimize either your pricing or what you can do to optimize your business on your side. The opportunity center. Many accommodation partners or many hoteliers here, they have a lot to do. And they don't have time to look in the extranet and understand that. I do invite you to take 5 or 10 minutes to look into the extranet, to look at the opportunity center. What you find in there is data-driven numbers, basically things that you can do to improve your visibility, and you can experiment with it, and that might lead to bigger business numbers for you. Experiment. The only thing we're always saying to partners, do not take anything for granted, but experiment like we do. We learn from it, you might learn from it too. So what is an experiment? And I'm going to show you a very simple one. Who spots the difference? Anybody? What do you see? So the price is here on the left, and the price is here in the middle. That's the only change. This is an A/B experiment. So on mobile, we'll show this to 1 million here and 1 million there. Who thinks the version on the left wins? Hands up. Who thinks the version on the right wins? And you're right. The majority of the room is right. This version wins. Apparently transacts better. We don't know why, it just does. And that's how simple it is. So sometimes when you come to conferences and people ask you to speak about what's the next big innovation, it's very appealing to say, well, we're going to do huge things. But it's small incremental steps like this that are hugely important. And if you do a couple of these every day, your business goes forward. And what applies to us, I guess, applies to other businesses too. So what do we have on innovation? You know, and as I said, the majority of the stuff that you'll see is continuing to do what we just did, making what we do every day a little bit better. But are there new ways to explore behavior of customers? Yes, we do. We try to do upper funnel a little bit different. Try to create from our platform a bit more an emotional connection by, for example, making the destination finder and the passion finder. So if you want to go surfing, if you want to go skydiving, if you put in your passion, you might not know where to go, but you know you want to go skydiving. How do we cater to that need? Could we basically offer to our customers a way of servicing that need? not for a destination need, but for a passion need. And does that make sense? We experiment with that, and that's something that we've started this year. Another innovation we're doing is, of course, messaging, and we talked about it a little bit before. Messaging, mobile is everything. There's no company anymore that should have a separate mobile strategy. Either you're mobile or you're not. You know, if it's already 40% with us tomorrow, guess what it will be in 2 years? So how do you use connectivity in a more instantaneous way? Messaging is big for us, and we've rolled it out since this year, and it allows, for example, a Chinese guest to ask something about arrival time. It will be automatically translated in the partner's language, who can reply in his language, and then the customer receives the feedback in his language. It takes language barriers away. It makes fluidity. It takes friction away. It allows interaction closer to the date of arrival, and it allows more security in a relationship also. It's big, and it's getting bigger. Another thing we're introducing is the booking experiences. So what can we do in stay to make it more interesting? How can we connect to you as a customer to your needs that you have in stay? And can we add value there? Because connecting is one thing, but can you add value to the customer? So we're experimenting on that. We have now 5 cities where we're experimenting with attractions, and you see examples here. Basically, with a QR code, you can get a ticket for the museums in Amsterdam, for example, and you can get it on your device automatically. You can add it to Passbook. You get to the museum, you get easy access. That's added value. And you might go further. If you project yourself forward, what could happen, you know? If you know that a certain type of customer has a certain type of need, and similar customers as him might have that same need, and you happen to know the availability in the top restaurants at a certain moment, how can you connect all those dots of information through data? How can you connect the dots, and how can you predict what customers might want and might need in the future? So intuitive technology that expands beyond basically what we know, that expands the human experience, so mixing what customers like, what they like to do, with intuitive technology, with artificial intelligence, with machine learning behind it, sounds a bit scary maybe. It's not. It's trying to get to the answer that I just showed in the mission. To answer that question, you need to think technology, what can we add? And that's the type of things that keeps us occupied. Again, I'm not saying that that's gonna, you know, that we are a humble company. We're trying to do the best thing we can with those 13,000 people to deliver against that promise. Hopefully creating value for you as a hotel or as an accommodation partner, and hopefully bringing customers to you that are happy and satisfied and will come back to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter. Have a seat on the chair, on the armchair, and I'm glad to introduce as a talkbacker a friend of BTO, Helena Egan from TripAdvisor.
Hello.
Hey.
Let's have some distance. Hello. Excellent. Everyone's perked up and a lot of people here, which is fantastic for us. Well, I think we should cut the chase and go straight to the question. Commission. I think that's a favorite question on the audience's lips, so I thought, why don't we go for it? I'm just curious on knowing how much pressure does Booking.com feel from companies like Accor, who are really, what we just heard earlier, and you come from background of Accor, but is that really affecting how Booking.com has to look the commission structure in the future, and is that putting any pressure on your plans?
Well, to be honest, pressure we have always, right? We have pressure to innovate, to deliver new customers, to get availability, to show to our partners that we can add something. You know, we are always under pressure because we need to innovate. We don't have hotels, so we need to deliver. Does that pressure increase? No, it doesn't. So for us, it's like, you know, we partner with the big hotel chains. We partner with a lot of individual partners. And, you know, to be honest, I think we have to prove every day we add value to the business. And if people, we are an ROI marketing channel. If anybody in this room thinks they could do the job direct, they probably would. By the way, we too generate demand with third parties. We need to attract demand from different channels. So I think a chain or an individual property, of course they want to have a lot of direct business, and I applaud to that, that's great. At the same time, we have needs to attract business from other channels, which apparently we're not successful in attracting directly. Maybe next time, but not now. So I think that's how chains look at us, that's how independent hotels look at us. Some lean in more to online travel agents, to technology companies. Others use other distribution ways more, and that's fine. Every entrepreneur is different. We have 1 million partners, and I tell you, they're not the same. If you're sitting in a city center with a big hotel, or if you're sitting in the Alps with 5 rooms, you have different needs. My guess is the entrepreneur will decide what's best for him. And the entrepreneur will know what type of model he chooses. And there's not one model for all.
Very true. And you talked about potential, and I think kind of the potential growth, and I think a lot of people look at Booking.com, you know, you're the giant in Europe. We may just have a tiny bit more traffic than you in Europe, which is fantastic for us. But, you know, you're growing constantly. So I know there's a lot of potential to grow within European and African market, but what is your next big thing? US, I know there's a lot of movement in there, and one of your kind of BHAGs seems to be big growth in that market.
Yeah, I think what I try to geographical growth is still big, right? I mean, everybody talks about China. China is big. It's, you know, we try to, of course, focus on that too. We're already big in Southeast Asia. States, we're very successful. South America, we're very big. But even in Europe, Middle East, Africa, let's look at my area where I'm active. There's huge pockets. So, for example, Iran is opening up, right? It's a fantastic potential to look at. How do you get it? How do you work with that? There is pockets in Russia. We're very active in Russia. We're very big in Russia. But if you look at the size of the opportunity that's still out there, so geo growth is really big. If you go broader, what type of segments are you not catering for? Yeah, business bookers is one big segment I think that we can be more relevant in, and we're working very hard to get relevance in there, and we're doing a good job, I think. And then another type of growth is what type of accommodations do you host? Igloos, campsites, how broad do you go in your accommodation types? And you know, we've learned over the last couple of years that the broader the selection is, the more interaction and the more customers like it. They will filter themselves what they need. We don't need to tell them what they need. You know, it's not us saying, you know, you need a hotel or you need a guest house or you need a villa. You know, they will do that themselves. And as long as your platform hosts easily to go quickly on the filtering and the search, I think there's a relevance in broadening your supply.
Cool. So there's been a lot of talk about our two companies and the potential purchase of Priceline of TripAdvisor, which, by the way, is not on the cards and not happening. But hypothetically, if it was happening, Peter, what would you do with TripAdvisor? So let's say we're all yours. You've got 3 things to do with us. And how would you, first sacking me, obviously, I presume, but after you got rid of me, what would you do with TripAdvisor, and how would you see that incorporating into the bigger picture?
So huge disclaimer. If there would be anything, I wouldn't be the guy to know anything about it. It's not, you know, my job. But to be honest, if you look at acquisition we've done in the past, we always look what can they add value to. Like, so when we do small acquisitions for, you know, for example, to build products like Rate Manager, Rate Intelligence, it added value to partners. When we look at a Priceline group level, you'd have to ask Glenn, and I think you did last night or yesterday, because he's group. But if you look at Priceline group in general, I'll give you a general statement. If you look at all the companies that are part of the Priceline group, they act as independent units. So really, so you know, there's some collaboration, but to be honest, every business stands on its own feet. So you know, my guess would be that it would be very similar.
So when you talk about different businesses, obviously, you know, the Skyscanner, Ctrip thing pushes them up on the flights and everything. You got Kayak, you got OpenTable, you got a lot of companies within the Priceline umbrella. So Booking.com, is there? Obviously, we never talk about what's going to happen next, but wouldn't it be kind of natural involvement? You're talking about coming higher up in a funnel and really adding the destination inspiration. I was on your destination inspiration channel, actually, testing it the other day, and I was probably in one of your A/B testing slices. But,
yeah, it's probably not
because
perfect,
it was an interesting experience, but I'll go back there. But is there any, if you kind of think of others, such as Expedia, you know, who kind of have a lot of different inventory, you know, Airbnb is now expanding, you know, from just rentals to other parts of consumer service. So I'm kind of wondering, within the destination edition, is there any plans of them incorporating OpenTable and starting to, under the Booking.com umbrella, because that is such a well-known brand?
Well, no. What we do see, for example, that post-booking, there can be needs, and we sometimes do that, you know, maybe somebody wants to rent a car, and then you could think of rentalcars.com and, you know, offer things that are logically maybe interesting to the customers. But it's really, you know, in the Priceline group, we are Booking.com. I focus on Booking.com. And the synergies and all those things that we're working on, I think, are really at corporate level. Sometimes there's thoughts about it, right? Kayak is there, you've got Open Table, you've got all these different companies, but they have to prove their own value to customers. And if we can, by enriching our customer experience, offer something of those products in a smart way, because we know we create customer value, why not? And an example is, yeah, it would be like rental cars, why don't you post-stay, maybe, you can experiment with those things.
Cool, I'm going to hand over to Generale.
Yeah. I have first of all, each one of you who want to do a question to Booking.com, raise your hands. But I have a couple of questions myself. First, you know that this edition is called Why, because we want to discover the why inside the company. So what's the secret of Booking.com to be so important and so big? I think you show one to the audience, which is you take care of so little details. When I was visiting your office, I was seeing that for every single details, you look at the conversion, which is something and tell me if that is true. But the second one, which I think is I'll do it as an hotelier, that most of the audience will do, it is if you are aware of how important you are on the consumer perception and the consumer behavior, because every single thing that you change is changing the market. So there's a lot of talks, for example, about your cancellation policy, which the consumer has learned to use it, so he's able to book a lot of hotels and then cancel at the very last minute. This was something which I do think everyone has, but are you aware of that? How is your importance?
Yeah, I know, because I've been living in the hotel industry my whole life and running hotels. So, would it be easier from a hotelier point of view to have all reservations guaranteed, prepaid, and already fully guaranteed before they arrive with the security of people arriving? Absolutely. Would that be easier? Would you, if you're on your own if you look at your own website, if you offer a product only like that product, you will just not generate 1/10 of the numbers you're generating now. Because customers want freedom. Customers want the ability to let life happen between the booking moment and arrival. And one of the big things is, in restrictive periods you have different rate policies and you can reduce cancellations. But if you would only offer non-refundable rates, if you would only want guaranteed rates, you get great security on the operations. You just get a lot less money in your bank account because you make less money. Customers love freedom. They want things to change. And it happens to you. And by the way, I'm sure that all the hoteliers, when they use a booking device or a platform like ours, they want that freedom too. We're not different than customers. So learning how to deal smartly with cancellations, looking what type of behavior what we can trigger to make people aware and maybe trigger them. We're experimenting on that. But a world without cancellations is a world where there's no business.
Any question? Yes. Here we are.
Hi, good morning.
Hi.
I would like to know, what do you think about the big marketing campaign that Hilton is carrying on, the Stop Clicking Around campaign, that apparently is like taking some important market share?
Good question.
Yeah, I think every company here, every accommodation has a right to work on its direct strategy, right? The only thing what I do think, if you partner together, and we partner with a lot of brands, then there's a respectful partnership. If people really believe that technology platforms like ours don't add value, they would close availability and you would switch us off, right? Apparently, we bring some value to hotels. So the only thing we're asking is respectful engagement on that. So that people want to keep customers loyal and that they want to drive customers to their loyalty program, that's perfect. I think that's, if we have customers coming to Booking through another channel, we would like them to book directly with Booking.com next time too, instead of going through a search or, that's fine. That's just a way of engaging on that.
Philip, have you found another question?
No, but I have one. Since
have
we
one.
have TripAdvisor and Booking.com on stage together, maybe we turn things around. Peter, what do you think of instant booking?
Well, it's interesting, right? with TripAdvisor, how I look at TripAdvisor, let me just put that, apparently TripAdvisor is able to capture customers that we cannot capture ourselves. So we work together on many stuff. We experiment on that. And I think as long as you recognize that you cannot do it all yourself, and if you look at from the hotel side, hey, Booking.com apparently generates traffic with other third parties that they're not able to generate themselves directly. Isn't that the same equation as for a hotel? There's a part you can do yourself, and there's a part that you do with a third party. That's how we look at TripAdvisor. Very neutral, without emotion. Well, it's business. If apparently we see an option to generate demand that we haven't captivated, hopefully next time the people will book directly with us, right? So we look at it as an opportunity, and we look at it as something we experiment on. Yeah.
Well, obviously for us, the inventory is extremely important, and we do work with, it's a great channel for independent hotels as well, but it is when there is someone who has all the inventory, it's been a great partnership for us, and it enabled us to push. You heard Adrian Hans yesterday saying, yes, instant booking hasn't moved quite as fast as we were hoping, but we want to perfect it, and we want to make, and it's also changing the consumer mind, which we all know is extremely hard. Going from a pure review site to instant booking to encourage people to book on our channel is a challenge, because people look at your brand in a specific way. They've used to come to, a lot of people say, yeah, I read the review on TripAdvisor, but I booked on Booking.com. It doesn't, I think there is a lot of room for different players, and that's why the competition authorities are so strict on having too many companies merge and just have one big player. But I think there's also room for the independent hotels to do their own thing. But I think where it really comes to play, things like instant booking, Booking.com, all these big channels, is the amount of effort that we put. You said 1,000 tests a day. I think you mentioned that in your speech. We're the same. We're constantly testing. But the good thing is when you're a large platform, you can do that. And you can fail. And we fail all the time. And we're quite happy to admit that we fail. But it's easier to test it when you have 390 million people on your site every month. I mean, that's a great way to test. And I think those learnings can be taken by everyone. In this room, it's like if you're running a small hotel or a small chain, you can learn from the big companies. And when you say, well, what do we do with data? Same. I think companies like ours share it quite openly as well. We have a project here happening with Confidenza Alberghi, for example, where we are talking about, finding out from the industry and helping the industry to learn from platforms like ours. So competition, yes, of course. I mean, everyone's after building and making their business bigger. Is there a question from the floor?
Yes, we have an audience question.
I'm going to reiterate a question on cancellations. We manage vacation rentals here in Florence, and we reached 60% cancellations rate on booking. So one thing is what you said about having the freedom to change mind. One thing is to invite your clients to use cancellations as much as possible. So what is happening now is that they're booking 10, 15, 20 accommodations to wait for the last 24 hours and see who's got the lowest rate and cancel 99% of those bookings. So here we are teaching the guest to have a behavior which is going to be really hard to handle. On our side, we get to receive 1 week reservations that are going to be canceled the day before arrival, and that's not going to be replaceable. So on our side, and not the guest side, we're seeing a heavy imbalance towards the guest interest.
Just on that note, so cancellations, the idea that cancellations are only done because customers get smart and use the platform is a myth. A lot of cancellations are born, why? Because partners lower their rates close to the arrival date. So they start high, they go low. What do you think is the percentage of cancellation that's generated through that? And customers know this. So a part of the cancellations is in the hands of the property also. How is your yielding strategy? How is your pricing strategy? And secondly, we know there's constrained dates. So there's dates, some partners will say on a Sunday night, I'm quite okay, or at certain types of the weeks or non-constrained dates, I'm quite okay to have a lot of cancellations because anybody who comes is extra business. So, if you ask for guarantees on mobile, which is a last-minute window, or a lot of people book mobile last minute, and you ask for CVC details on a credit card, you will not convert. So it's, you can say booking educates customers. Customers educate themselves. And if they can't find it in your shop, they will go to the next shop. So it's true, we need to look together with partners what's feasible, what type of policies. That's why we have account management teams that try to advise you what could be working best for your type of accommodation. And if you have a Tuscany villa that you rent out for 2 weeks a year or 5 weeks a year, and it's key that you get the prepayment for that, maybe you're willing to forego extra bookings because you want security on a certain number of dates. And you want to have total non-refundable bookings, for example. That makes sense. So it's really, talking about cancellations in general, that people should not have the liberty to do that. The whole industry of the hotel business has been taking walk-ins forever, has been taking telephone reservations without guarantees forever. And customers want that. And then you can say two things. You can say, well, we want that, but we should educate the hundreds of millions of customers out there in a different way. That's not how it works.
We have another question here.
Hi, my name is Christina. I work for GTA. As we all know, Expedia is penetrating very aggressively the B2B market. Are you planning to do something similar in the future?
Well, we're working on business bookers. So basically we found out that on our platform we actually have a lot of business travelers already. I think it's now 25% of our travelers are identified as business travelers. So we're looking into how we can grow that business smartly, what we can offer as services and added value. And basically also because in the business travel market, we believe there's still a lot of friction and patterns of RFPs and the ways of how business is done in that business is very manual still. So there's a lot of things that I think technology could bring to that segment. So yes, we're looking at that.
We have another audience question.
Okay. Stefano Tribocchi, Revenue Manager. Just one question. Don't you think that Genius program for booking and Expedia package are now killing the billboard effect for direct website?
Are killing the billboard for your own website?
Did you understand? Did
I
you
didn't get it,
understand?
sorry.
You were asking if direct booking is killing your website?
No. If Genius program and Expedia package are killing the billboard effect for direct website.
Well, we've done recent studies where we found out that, Oxford Economics helped us do a study. And you know what we found out? That of all the people that book directly on websites of hotels, 40% found that hotel. Guess through whom? Through platforms such as ourselves. So the billboard effect is there. No doubt about it. By the way, experiment with it. For example, if you see that your ranking on our site is in a different place, you will see maybe the billboard effect negatively affecting your direct too. So people learn from that, right? So the billboard effect is there. Genius is basically saying, for those who don't know what Genius is, it's offering a special price to a selective segment of customers. Those who are frequent travelers, those who cancel less, show up all the time, have a high ADR, and basically 8 out of 10 times will not book the Genius rate, but it allows you to be more visible to that specific segment of customers. It's a visibility game. So again, if you're a partner, experiment. If Genius works for you and you see in the aggregate you get a good deal out of it, it seems to work for you. That's what we see on the aggregate. It works very well on the platform. The Genius customer loves it, he gets value, and you get a better visibility for a high value customer. Use it to your knowledge, use it for your hotel, and if it works, great. If it doesn't work, do something else. We have a platform with a lot of tools and options. How you engage with that is your experimentation, is your choice.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks to Peter Verhoeven from Booking.com and Helena Egan, TripAdvisor. That was a great session. Thank you.
Thank you.